Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here again beginning the second week on some good words from Proverbs. I mentioned to you last week that Proverbs is a book about everyday life. It's very practical guidelines of how to live by the guy, call it, who made life. So I would think if you want to live the quote right way, then you ought to go to the source and see what he says. So let's do that. We'll do it all this week, starting today with Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 28. It says here, if you can help your neighbor now, don't say, come back tomorrow and I'll help you then. Don't plot harm against your neighbor, for those who live nearby trust you. Don't pick a fight without reason when no one else has done you any harm. Don't envy people who are violent or even copy their ways. Such wicked people are detestable to the Lord, but he offers his friendship to the godly. Okay, here we have four different ideas, different thoughts, different applications. Remember, as I already said, this is a book about practical living. How do you live from day to day? And today, we start out with, if you can help your neighbor, then don't say, tomorrow, come back tomorrow and I'll help you. If you can help, help. See how simple that is? Now, I know that a lot of people don't do that. They can help, but they put it off. Now, I don't know what they gain by putting it off. Maybe they get less inconvenienced. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe there is genuinely something that's more important. It could be. And maybe it's just they put it off. So this word says, if you can help your neighbor, do it. Don't say, come back tomorrow. Do it today. Your neighbor is in need. Otherwise, they wouldn't have asked you. And while tomorrow may not sound very long to you, it could feel like an eternity to your neighbor. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, don't plot harm against your neighbor. For those who live nearby trust you. Well, what does it mean, harm? It doesn't mean go out and beat them up. I mean, surely nobody's thinking that. But it does mean don't try to take advantage of them. I'll give you an example. My neighbor, there was a tree line between my property and my neighbor who's a farmer. And he couldn't keep his fence up the way it was because it was full of brush and rocks and unevenness, and he couldn't really get to it. And so he couldn't use it to pasture. And I wanted the trees cut down, so I got the trees cut down. And then I was talking to him. I said, hey, how about we tear all these stumps out? Is that possible? Do you mind? He said, oh, no, I can do that. I said, well, great. I said, tear out the stumps, let's smooth it over, and you put your fence up. And wherever you put the fence will be the property line. Now, I know that there are legal defined lines, and this might mess it up a little bit, but why care about that? Oh, when I go to sell it, it could be, if I lose a foot or two or gain a foot or two, is that really any big deal? The thing is, make his life easier. And in the process, makes mine easier. Because I don't have to worry about the stumps regrowing, keep cutting them down, and I can get my lawnmower over there and keep it cut. It's a win-win situation. Don't do things that harm your neighbor. Do things that help them out. Okay, let's look for the third one. Don't pick a fight without reason when no one has done harm to you. Well, I might want to modify this a little bit and say, don't pick a fight. Now, suppose there is good reason. You know, I'll fight about ideas and I'll fight about principles. As I get older, I find the number of things that we're fighting over seem to be smaller than they used to be. But I'm not trying to do harm. Don't don't pick a fight. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe instead of defending your honor, you need to defend your I'm sorry. That's a little harder to do. And then it goes on, the last one for today. Don't envy violent people or copy their ways. Now, think about it on the surface. Why would anybody envy violent people? Well, it's pretty simple. Lots of people like power. Power is defined as getting you to do what I want you to do. Power. Violent people want power. You can't eliminate that with bigger power. Oh, I know. Teddy Roosevelt, speak softly, carry a big stick. And I know you have a bigger bat than the next guy has. And that works for a season, but it doesn't solve the root problem. It says you don't envy that. I feel sorry for people who have to push their way around. It's obvious they got problems. Now, I know I live in a real world, and those kinds of people sometimes get to dictate. And in this certain situations, I have to follow their dictates, but not all. And that's not what I want for my life. It's not what I wanted for my kids' life. I hope it's not what you want for yours. I want to envy, in a good way, those people whose lives reflect all the positives that God talks about: justice, compassion, love, caring, forgiveness. That's who I want to emulate. And this passage doesn't say that, but it says don't emulate the other kind. And here we see some really, really good words, some really good ideas. Don't help your neighbor later, do it now. Don't try to harm your neighbor, be kind. Don't pick a fight just because somebody's brought you harm. And don't envy and copy violent people. Those four things will set you in pretty good stead for much of life, if nothing else happens. Will you think about that? Appreciate you listening today. I'll be back tomorrow, the rest of this week, with some other good ideas. If you have a prayer need or a concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet those needs. So until tomorrow, God bless you. I'll talk to you again.